Hello and welcome to Leica Review. Today I want to talk about something very light, very important, and I think one of the questions I get asked most often. Why do I choose Leica and why do I use a rangefinder type of camera? Well, to be honest, I use many of Leica's cameras. I use the S series, I use the SL, and I use the M240. And they are good for different applications. For example, if I'm photographing models and fashion shoots or doing product photography, Leica S with the medium format is probably the best camera and lens combination out there, and it's the one that I prefer over other companies. And then we have the SL, which is a full frame lens and camera combination, and that is also a very good camera to use for day-to-day shoots and also for magazines and articles for the internet. And that is one I choose to use often in my daily work. And then when I want to create something very artistic, well, then I use the M240 or the monochrome. They provide an advantage like no other camera and lens does. And I'll explain that in a bit. First reason, of course, is the compact size and lightweight. Well, take for example Nikon's D5, their best camera, weighs 1.2, 1.3 kilograms, and their lenses are heavy, between 700 grams to 1.2 kilograms. And then when you put that together, you're having over 2 kilos of weight, 2.5 kilos. And that roughly translates, if you look at it, to about 6 or 7 pounds. And that's a lot of weight to carry around if you're a professional or otherwise. And then you look at the Canon, they have 1DX Mark II, and it weighs about the same. And then you have this combination, the M240 with the Noctilux. Noctilux being the heaviest lens in Leica's lineup, only weighs 700 grams. And the body, 680 grams. You combine it and you have about 1.5, almost half the weight of regular DSLR type of camera, the lens combination. So if you are going to be photographing while you're on the move, if you go on for adventures, documentary type of photography, or if you're taking it on the streets and doing urban photography, this camera combination with the Leicas work wonderful. And they don't weigh you down, they're not cumbersome to hold, and in fact, they are probably the easiest cameras to use. Which brings me to the second topic. See, most cameras, it takes a bit of time to get used to using them. And the most important functions, like the shutter speed and the aperture, are not so easily accessible, especially in the modern DSLR cameras. You have to go and work through different buttons and dials and thumb navigational uh, buttons to actually adjust the aperture or shutter speed, which can slow you down or it can take a lot of effort to learn. With Leica, everything is at the tip of my finger. If I want to adjust it, I turn it, I focus it, and of course the shutter speed is easily on the top dial. So it makes it easier to use, easier to have. Of course, it doesn't have autofocus, and autofocus is something that is very specific to use. Actually, brings me to the third reason. When you use a Leica, you actually take the time to compose your pictures better. You take the time to make sure that your photography is the one that you want to tell the story. You adjust the aperture to make sure that you have the right bokeh and right amount of fall off from the in focus to the out of focus areas, as well as the shutter speed to make sure that you are capturing the image in the way you want it. For example, if the children are playing on the street, maybe you want to put a motion blur in it to give the effect of dynamic. Or you might want to freeze a moment when they jump in the air. That will all depend on the shutter speed, which are not so easily adjustable when you're using modern DSLRs, because oftentimes they're designed to be used in auto mode or aperture priority mode. Then, of course, we have the ergonomics. Ergonomics is very important. The way you handle a camera. If it's small, compact, you can hold it in your hand, carry it around, and it's easy to have. Unlike having big DSLRs that are big and weighing down, you can just pretty much take a Leica all day long and not be weighed down. Now let's take an example. You take a lens like this. This is a 28 millimeter Elmarit and it's at f2.8. You take that, and this is a 230 gram lens, and most lenses in Leica's lineup weigh about 300 grams, and that's very easy to carry around. Then you compare it with, for example, a quality lens like the Zeiss Otus. They weigh about 1.2 kilograms, and that is very heavy. And if you consider that being 4 times the weight and the size, it is something maybe you just want to use in studio or for specific reasons. Even Leica's top of the line lenses, like the Simuluxes, weigh far less than any of the DSLR's lens collection. And of course, the value. That is one of the most important reasons, and it's the fourth reason why I like to have Leica lenses and cameras. It's because Leicas hold their value better than any other lenses out there. For example, I have the Dr. Mendler's design here, the Noctilux 1.0, designed and manufactured in the 70s and 80s. It serves a beautiful purpose and it retains its value for inflation adjusted much better than any other lens. In fact, it sells for more. So when you buy it, you can be ensured that your quality and your investment will remain with you for years to come. And you can pass it on to your children, or if you sell it to anyone, they will know that they're getting a quality item that will last for a lifetime. In fact, quality is one of the key issues that is plaguing in the modern DSLR and mirrorless cameras, because Leica still adheres to the quality aspects. They are all manufactured with solid materials, metal, and also dials and everything else work very smoothly. I have had a number of issues with modern DSLR lenses because they are plasticky and they fall apart after a few years of use because they want to make it faster, and out of focus is a key issue and the speed is very key issue. So the mechanics interior has plastic parts and they eventually wear out and they never hold their value. In fact, most lenses that are produced from the big manufacturers sell about half their value after a year's use. And finally, and the most important thing, is the intimidation factor. You take a camera like a DSLR into a space and people become weary of you being present with your big camera and big lens. They don't want their pictures taken. And of course they have very good reason, because that camera and lens combination is something that makes people on the edge. Not with Leica. Leica, you can take it and you can hold it in your hand and it's a conversation starter. It makes people feel at ease. It makes you feel that you are actually interacting with people because you are able to use the lens and camera and you manually adjust it. So people actually are very pleased to have their photos taken, unlike the DSLR combinations. Of course, there's one thing that people will often ask: how about the mirrorless cameras? Well, mirrorless cameras are important and they are coming up more and more in other camera manufacturers' lineups. For example, Sony has made a breakthrough and has gained a big market share by introducing cameras with mirrorless option. And that, of course, is a beautiful thing because it pushes the advancements of cameras into the next era. But notice something: Leica has been producing lenses and cameras for almost a century. You look at Sony and they have their lenses produced by Zeiss, which is a very good company, but you notice they are not native. They are produced by a third party. In fact, Sony is an electronics company, not a lens and camera company. Of course, their quality is very high in terms of their sensors, but look at the end result. You're investing in an ecosystem. Ecosystem involves the camera and the lens. and nothing compares to the lens selections that other manufacturers have, especially Leica. Leica has lenses that were produced in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s that can still be attached to and be mounted onto an M240 and still be used. In fact, with adapters, you can use the R type of lenses and you can use the screw mounts, and that makes Leica a worthwhile investment on all terms. And these are my top 5 reasons why I choose Leica over other cameras. And I thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our newsletter in the website and also our YouTube channel. And we look forward to seeing you next week in another Leica review.